The Empire thought they had killed her the moment they left her on that world. They were wrong. What they did not know was this: the most dangerous creature on Vidian 9 was not the burning twin suns, not the metal predators in the dunes, but a dying human who refused to accept death. Princess Kylara of the Ethran Dominion had never feared war. She had never feared politics. She had never feared standing against her own blood in the royal court. But standing alone beneath two merciless suns, abandoned by her family and stripped of command, she felt something far worse. Silence. Vidian 9 was not empty. It only pretended to be. The sands shimmered like crushed diamonds, reflecting harsh red and gold light into her eyes. Every step sank half an inch into glittering grains that sparked faintly when disturbed. The air tasted of metal and storm energy. Strange crystal formations rose from the dunes like frozen lightning. Her exile had been clean. No public execution. No chains. Just a quiet transport ship and a sealed door that never reopened. "Let the Defiant one learn humility," her father had said. Kylara tightened her jaw as she walked. She had defied them because she believed in peace with Earth. The humans were new to the galactic stage. Loud. Unpredictable. Emotional. Creative. Dangerous in ways the Empire did not understand. And that frightened the Council more than any weapon. A low mechanical screech echoed across the dunes. Kylara's long ears twitched. A dune stalker. She adjusted the energy blade at her side and kept moving. Hours passed. Heat drained her strength. Her royal armor, built for ceremony not survival, grew heavy. Her throat burned. Then she heard something strange. Coughing. Not alien. Not mechanical. Human. She froze. Humans were not cleared for this quadrant. Vidian 9 was classified as unstable, resource-depleted, strategically irrelevant. Yet the coughing continued, followed by a weak laugh. Kylara followed the sound into a narrow canyon where glowing blue veins pulsed through stone walls. There, half buried in sand beside a shattered escape pod, lay a man. He looked terrible. Sunburned. Bleeding from his side. His clothes torn. One boot missing. His short dark hair stuck to his forehead with sweat. A cracked wrist console blinked weakly on his arm. He opened one eye when her shadow fell over him. "Well," he rasped. "Either I'm hallucinating, or aliens are way prettier than recruitment posters promised." Kylara blinked. "You are human," she said carefully. "Last time I checked." He coughed again, gripping his side. "Name's Elias Ward. Civilian engineer. Currently, extremely dying." She knelt beside him. His pulse was weak. His breathing shallow. "What happened?" she asked. "Freighter got hit by pirates. I hijacked an escape pod. Navigation failed. Landed here." He winced. "Pod AI says internal bleeding. Couple hours left. Maybe less." He said it calmly, as if discussing weather. Kylara studied him. Humans were not supposed to be calm about death. Her people spent decades mastering emotional control. Humans simply decided. "You are alone?" she asked. Elias managed a faint grin. "Aren't we all?" A rumble shook the canyon. Sand trickled from above. Dune stalkers. Attracted by blood. Kylara stood, drawing her blade. "You will not die today, human Elias." He laughed weakly. "That's optimistic." The first predator lunged from the canyon wall, metallic limbs clicking, jaws sparking with plasma charge. Kylara moved on instinct. Her blade flashed in a clean arc, slicing through joint plating. The creature shrieked and fell. Two more emerged. Elias struggled upright, dragging himself toward the shattered escape pod. "What are you doing?" she shouted. "Buying you better odds," he replied. He ripped open the pod's exposed wiring panel with shaking hands. Sparks flew. Kylara fought with precision, but the creatures were fast. One clipped her shoulder, sending her against the canyon wall. Then Elias slammed two torn wires together. The pod reactor, already unstable, screamed. A pulse wave exploded outward in a shock of blue light. The dunestalkers convulsed and collapsed instantly, circuits fried. Silence returned. Smoke curled from the ruined pod. Kylara stared at the human. He lay back in the sand, breathing hard. Improvised EMP, he muttered. Escape pods aren't meant to be weapons. But humans aren't meant to follow manuals. Despite her exhaustion, she felt something unexpected. Admiration. You are dying, she reminded him. Working on that, he said faintly. She scanned his injury with her wrist device. Internal rupture. Blood loss critical. Without advanced medical tech, survival chances were near zero. Her people would accept that math. Humans did not. Elias turned his head toward her. You're not from Earth, he said softly. No. You got that royal posture thing. And the armor. Let me guess. Political exile. She stiffened. He smiled weakly. Don't worry. Humans are great at disappointing authority too. For a moment, beneath twin burning suns on a hostile world, two outcasts shared a quiet understanding. Then Kylara made a decision. Her people valued order. Humans valued possibility. She would choose possibility. There is an old Ethrin outpost 3 kilometers north, she said. Abandoned. It may still hold medical nanits. Elias closed his eyes. 3 kilometers feels like 3 galaxies. Then I will carry you. His eyes opened again. You don't even know me. You rewired a dying machine into a weapon while bleeding to death, she replied. That is enough. Another distant rumble rolled across the dunes, but this one was not a predator. It was orbital thunder. Ships entering atmosphere. Kylara looked up sharply. Imperial signatures. They had come back. Not for her. For the human. Elias followed her gaze. Please tell me, he whispered. Those aren't your friends. Kylara's expression hardened. No, she said quietly. They are my mistake. Above them, dark shapes pierced the sky like falling spears. And for the first time, Princess Kylara understood something her empire did not. Humans were not dangerous because of strength. They were dangerous because even with hours left to live, they still fought back. And if the empire had come for Elias Ward, they had just made a catastrophic error. The first dropship screamed through the clouds and slammed into the dunes less than a kilometer away, throwing up a wall of glittering sand that sparkled like shattered glass. A second ship followed, then a third, forming a triangle around the canyon like hunters closing a net. Princess Kylara's blood went cold. Those were not rescue ships. They were retrieval ships. Elias Ward watched the descending craft with half-lidded eyes, his face pale, his breathing shallow. Yet even now, dying in the sand, he managed to sound annoyed. Of course, he whispered. I crash on the one planet where the locals have a personal grudge. Kylara tightened the strap of her satchel and crouched beside him. Can you walk? Elias tried. His body trembled. He took one step, then nearly fell. That's a hard no, he said, forcing a breath. But I can complain upright, if that helps. Kylara slid her arm behind his back and lifted him. Humans were heavier than she expected. Dense, stubborn creatures made of muscle and will. He groaned but didn't resist. They moved out of the canyon into open dunes, heading north toward the abandoned outpost. The sands shifted beneath them like liquid, catching sunlight and throwing it back in sharp flashes. Every flash felt like a signal flare. Behind them, the dropship doors opened with a hiss. Figures stepped out, tall, armored, carrying long rifles that hummed with containment fields. Ethrin Imperial Wardens. Kylara recognized the silver crest on their chest plates. The palace had sent specialists. Not soldiers. Collectors. Elias squinted. Those guys look like they came here to take souvenirs. They did, Kylara said. And you are the souvenir. A sharp pulse cracked through the air. A shot hit the sand beside them, turning glitter into molten glass. Stop! A voice boomed from a loudspeaker. Princess Kylara of House Varen, you are ordered to surrender. The human asset will be secured alive. Do not interfere. Kylara's ears flicked back in rage. Asset. The Empire had finally confirmed what Kylara tried to warn them about. Humans were valuable, not as allies, but as tools. As curiosities. As trophies to dissect and reverse engineer. Elias coughed blood into his sleeve. Yeah, he rasped. I hate being called an asset. Makes me feel taxable. Kylara pushed forward, dragging him as fast as she could. Another shot struck close. The sand exploded around her legs. She ducked behind a jagged crystal ridge. The ridge hummed faintly, reacting to the energy bolts. Elias leaned against the crystal, breathing hard. What's the plan, Your Highness? Kylara stared across the dunes, mind racing. Fighting them head-on was suicide. Running was nearly impossible. Her outpost hope was slim. Then she looked at the crystal ridge. The same blue veins she had seen in the canyon. The same pulse that reacted to the rifle energy. An idea formed, dangerous, desperate, and oddly human. Elias, she said, can you still rewire things? He gave a weak smile. That depends. Are we rewiring for survival, or for revenge? Both. She pulled his cracked wrist console from his arm. The screen flickered, but it still responded. What do you have? She asked. Escape pod system, he said. Minimal power. But I can read frequencies. Maybe jam signals. Maybe, he winced. Maybe explode something if you give me 5 minutes and a miracle. Kylara opened her satchel and poured its contents into the sand. Torn map scraps, a small emergency cell, a palace-grade communication shard, and a ceremonial ribbon she hadn't even realized she kept. Elias stared at the ribbon. Is that emotional baggage? It is irrelevant, she snapped. He chuckled, then coughed again. Sure. Kylara sliced open the emergency cell casing with her blade and exposed its core. The core pulsed a steady green. Elias's eyes narrowed. That's a high-density charge. It was meant to power distress beacons, Kylara said. Or so my family said. Elias looked toward the wardens, now spreading out, boots crunching across glitter sand. How close do they have to be for your crystals to react? He asked. Kylara watched the ridges around them. Within 20 meters, their weapons caused resonance. Elias grinned like a man who had just found a loophole in the universe. Then we don't run, he whispered. We set a trap. Kylara stared at him. You are dying. Yeah, he said. So I can afford bold decisions. She helped him sit, then shielded him with her body as he began working. Elias tore open the palace communication shard with shaking hands. Your tech uses clean signal protocols, he murmured. Like polite conversations. Humans use messy ones. Like arguing in a garage. He wired the shard to the emergency cell, then pressed the exposed ends of 2 wires against the crystal ridge. The ridge lit brighter. Kylara felt the vibration through her bones. What are you doing? She asked. Elias swallowed, sweat on his forehead. I'm teaching your crystal how to scream. The wardens advanced. Princess, the loudspeaker called. Your defiance ends now. Kylara stood tall, blade drawn, and stepped out from behind the ridge, alone. She raised her hands slightly, like surrender. The wardens paused. Their leader approached, rifle aimed directly at her chest. His visor reflected the twin suns, making him look like a faceless god. You disappoint your bloodline, he said coldly. Even now, you choose treason. Kylara met his gaze. I chose truth, she replied. And you chose fear. Behind her, Elias whispered, Okay, now would be a great time for them to get closer. The leader stepped forward, within 20 meters. Then 15. His rifle hummed louder. The crystal ridge began to pulse. The wardens didn't notice at first. They were too certain of victory. That was their weakness. Elias pressed a final connection. The emergency cell core flared. The crystal ridge screamed. A shockwave of blue-white resonance exploded outward like a thunderclap made of light. The Warden's rifles overloaded instantly, their containment fields collapsing into wild arcs. Armor systems failed. Visors went dark. Some Wardens dropped to their knees, clutching their helmets as if their own thoughts had turned against them. Kylara staggered but stayed standing. Elias slumped back, gasping. "Nice," he whispered. "We just turned your pretty rocks into an angry speaker system." Kylara didn't waste the moment. She rushed forward, disarmed the leader, and slammed him into the sand. Her blade hovered at his throat. "Where is your ship's medical unit?" she demanded. The leader's visor flickered back online. He looked stunned, more by the fact that a dying human and an exiled princess had outplayed him than by the blade. "You will not reach it," he hissed. "We came prepared." Kylara's ears twitched at a new sound. Not footsteps. A high, distant whine. She looked up. A drone swarm. Small, fast, shining like insects against the suns. Dozens of them poured from the dropships, spreading across the dunes in a net pattern. Elias saw them too. His face tightened. "Okay," he rasped. "That's less fun." Kylara pulled him to his feet. "We still go north," she said. "To the outpost?" he asked. Kylara's eyes narrowed. "No," she said softly. "To steal a ship." Elias blinked, then smiled, despite blood at the corner of his mouth. "Now that," he whispered, "sounds like a very human plan." The drones began to dive. And somewhere deep in Elias Ward's failing body, a stubborn spark refused to go out, because humans didn't measure time in hours. They measured it in choices. And they had just made one that could shake an empire. The drones fell from the sky like silver rain. They moved too fast to outrun and too many to fight. Each one carried scanning beams designed to lock onto biological signatures. Once tagged, escape would be impossible. Princess Kylara tightened her grip on Elias as they ran across the blazing dunes. Behind them, the stunned Wardens were already recovering. Above them, the swarm adjusted formation. And ahead of them, resting in the sand like a sleeping predator, stood one of the Imperial dropships. Elias was barely conscious now. His breath came in thin pulls, like someone trying to sip air through a cracked straw. "Kylara," he whispered. "Be honest. What are the odds?" She didn't slow down. "Terrible." He gave a faint laugh. "Good. I hate predictable stories." The first drone fired. A stun pulse struck the sand inches from her feet. Kylara skidded behind a ridge and lowered Elias carefully. "I will create a distraction," she said. "You reach the ship." He stared at her, almost offended. "I can't even reach my own feet." She hesitated. In the palace, she had been trained to command fleets, negotiate treaties, and deliver perfect speeches. No one had trained her for this, choosing whether one life outweighed a galaxy's future. Elias coughed, blood staining the glittering sand. "Hey," he said softly. "I didn't survive pirates, space vacuum, and your angry rock concert just to quit now." A drone dipped low. Elias looked at the scattered debris from the stunned Warden's gear. His eyes sharpened. "Princess," he said slowly, "how much does your empire trust its own technology?" She blinked. "Completely." He nodded weakly. "That's the problem." Another drone scanned past them, its red beam sweeping across the sand. Elias reached for one of the fallen Warden helmets. With trembling hands, he pulled it toward him. Kylara crouched close. "What are you thinking?" "Humans don't win by being stronger," he whispered. "We win by being confusing." He cracked open the helmet casing and exposed its identification chip. "The drones are scanning for life signs and tagging unknown biology, right?" "Yes." "Then we don't hide." He swallowed hard, fighting dizziness. "We lie." He connected the helmet chip to his damaged wrist console. Sparks flickered. His breathing grew uneven. "Elias, stop," Kylara urged. "You are fading." He looked at her, eyes burning with something stronger than pain. "Humans don't fade quietly." He began typing, hands shaking. I'm injecting a false command into the drone network. A ghost signal. What signal? She asked. Elias smiled faintly. A contamination alert. Above them, 3 drones froze mid-air. Then 1 shifted direction. Then 5. What did you tell them? Kylara whispered. He coughed again. That this planet is carrying a human adaptive bioplague. Her eyes widened. That does not exist. Doesn't matter, he said. Your empire hates unpredictability. The idea of a human virus that adapts to alien DNA. They won't risk exposure. More drones began pulling upward. Alarm signals echoed from the dropships. Inside the nearest ship, warning lights flashed red. Kylara stared at the sky in disbelief as the swarm suddenly changed pattern, clustering defensively instead of attacking. The warden leader shouted orders, but confusion rippled through their ranks. Elias continued typing. I'm escalating it, he whispered. Simulated symptoms. Cross-species mutation. Fatality projection. A tremor ran through the nearest dropship. Its engines roared. They're lifting off, Kylara said, stunned. The Empire feared nothing more than losing control of a biological threat. And humans were masters of fear psychology. One by one, the dropships began retreating into the sky. The wardens scrambled aboard, abandoning pursuit. Within minutes, only the wind and the glittering dunes remained. Silence. The Empire had fled. Not from weapons. Not from fleets. But from an idea. Kylara slowly turned to Elias. You defeated them, she said. He tried to laugh but instead winced sharply. Correction, he breathed. We defeated them. His wrist console flickered and died. The effort had cost him. His body sagged sideways. Kylara caught him before he hit the sand. Elias, she called, panic breaking through her control. His pulse was barely there. The deception would not hold forever. Once the Empire analyzed the signal, they would realize it was false. They would return. But right now, none of that mattered. The abandoned outpost still stood north of them. Medical nanits. Emergency power. A chance. Kylara lifted him again, though her own muscles screamed in protest. You will not die here, she said fiercely. The suns were lowering now, painting the dunes in softer gold. Halfway to the outpost, Elias stirred. Princess. Yes. If I don't make it. You will. If I don't, he insisted weakly, promise me something. She tightened her hold. Speak. Don't go back to the palace to beg, he whispered. Go back to challenge. Her throat tightened. You think I can defeat an empire? He smiled faintly. You already did. The old outpost emerged from the horizon, half-buried metal structures rising from sand like ancient bones. Kylara kicked open the main hatch. Inside, dust-covered consoles flickered faintly with emergency power. She laid Elias onto a diagnostic table and activated the system. For a long second, nothing happened. Then, medical nanits deployed. Silver mist flowed over his wound. The system began repairing internal damage cell by cell. Kylara stood frozen, watching. Minutes passed like hours. Then Elias inhaled sharply. A real breath. His heart rate stabilized. Color slowly returned to his face. He opened his eyes. Okay, he muttered. That was dramatic. Kylara exhaled for the first time in what felt like forever. You survived. He blinked at the ceiling. Yeah, he said softly. Guess I had more than a few hours left. Outside, the last of the Imperial ships vanished beyond the clouds. But something had changed. For the first time in Etherean history, the Empire had retreated because of a human. Not because of firepower. Not because of fleets. Because of creativity. Because of nerve. Because a dying engineer decided fear could be weaponized. Kylara looked down at Elias Ward, no longer dying, no longer helpless. You understand, she said quietly, that they will come back. He turned his head toward her. Good, he replied. She raised an eyebrow. He grinned. Next time, he said, we'll be ready. Outside the outpost, beneath twin suns and glittering sand, something new was born. Not an alliance. Not yet. Something stronger. An idea. That humans and aliens together could challenge empires. That exile could become rebellion. That death sentences could become beginnings. And far above Vidian 9, inside the Imperial Command vessel, analysts stared at corrupted drone logs with growing unease. Because the signal Elias injected did not disappear. It spread. Quietly. Into archived systems. Into defensive protocols. Into places no one expected. The Empire thought they had escaped contamination. They were wrong. They had just imported it. And humanity's greatest weapon had never been strength. It had always been imagination.